Hello, welcome to my channel, Imadaf, where I share helpful tips on English grammar and punctuation. In this video, I'm going to share ideas about the uses of the comma. But before we look at the uses of the comma, let's try to underline, underscore the importance of punctuation marks. Punctuation marks in sentences, in written communication, are very, very important. If you use them incorrectly, you might send unintended messages to your readers. For example, in this sentence, let's eat my children. Now, if you look at this sentence, the way it is constructed, my children is the object of the verb eat. So what it means is, what we want to eat is not food, is my children. If the intention of this writer is to invite his or her children to table, let's assume this is a mother. She's been cooking, her food is now ready, and she's inviting the children to the table. And she says, children, food is ready. Let's eat, my children. There ought to be a comma here. When you put a comma here, this is no longer the object of the verb. This, my children, is a noun in direct address. So if you intended to send this message and you neglected to add the comma, you've sent an unintended message to your reader. This is how important punctuation marks are. So let's go to the comma. Oh yes, the comma. What are the uses of the comma? The first use of the comma that we want to consider is that the comma is used to separate a noun in direct address from the rest of the sentence. What do we mean by a noun in direct address? The noun in direct address identifies or names the person or the persons you are addressing, you are talking to. For example, if you say, thank you, you have not identified anybody. But if you say, thank you, my dear students, thank you, my dear, thank you, my dear students. My dear students, my dear students is a noun in direct address. And you must set it off from the rest of the sentence with a comma. Sandra, close the door. Sandra, close the door. This is an imperative sentence, and you have identified the person you are addressing. So Sandra is a noun in direct address, and it must be separated from the rest of the sentence with a comma. So this is a noun in direct address. Now sometimes the noun in direct address appears at the beginning of the sentence. Sometimes the noun in direct address is at the middle of the sentence. And sometimes the noun in direct address is at the end of the sentence. Wherever the noun in direct address may be, you must set it off from the rest of the sentence with a comma. Let's look at these examples. Mr. Paul, can you tell us why you think that you are the best candidate for this job? Can you tell us why you think, Mr. Paul, that you are the best candidate for this job? Can you tell us why you think that you are the best candidate for this job, Mr. Paul? In all three sentences, the now indirect address is at the beginning, at the middle, and at the end of each of the sentences. You must set it off, separate it from the rest of the sentence with the comma. Now, sometimes the now indirect address may take on modifiers and qualifiers. When you are separating the now indirect address from the rest of the sentence, you must separate it with its modifiers and qualifiers. For example, thank you, Almighty and merciful God. Thank you, Almighty and merciful God. Now, the head word here, the now indirect address here is God, but it has modifiers, Almighty and merciful. So when you are separating it from the rest of the sentence, you must separate everything, including its modifiers. Sometimes it may also take on qualifiers. Thank you, God Almighty. Qualifier. You must separate it from the rest of the sentence with a comma. Now let's look at the second use of the comma. The comma is also used to indicate the omission of a word in a sentence. What do we mean? Let's explain this with examples. Sandra washed the plates. Jane washed the car. Sandra washed the plates. Jane washed the car. This is a simple sentence. This is a simple sentence. Now, when you write, no matter what you write, letters, essays, compositions, you cannot afford to write everything in simple sentences. People do that when they write for very young children. That's why if you look at readers for young children, you notice that the sentences are always simple sentences. And not just that they are simple sentences, they follow the same pattern, what we call the grammatical order, grammatical pattern, or the normal order. When we treat sentences, I will explain all of these ideas. Normal pattern or grammatical pattern. Simple sentences. For example, you must have encountered some readers. This is Simbi. Simbi is a girl. This is Mr. Salami. Mr. Salami is a man. Go on, Ox. I am in. Go on. Am I to go in? Go on. We are in. He is on. Simple sentences like this, because they are written for children. But as you grow and advance, and as you mature in your use of English, you can't afford to write all the time in simple sentences. There will be the need to write, combine your sentences. Some of the sentences may be simple, some may be compound, some sentences may be complex, and some sentences may be compound complex. That's not all. You can also vary your sentence patterns. Sometimes it may be grammatical order, at other times it may be inverted order. Never mind. In this channel, I'm going to treat all of these ideas and explain them and break them down. They are actually accessible to everyone. So you're writing and you have two sentences like this. Simple sentence. Sandra washed the plates. Jane washed the car. And you want to match them to form a compound sentence. There are two ways to do this. The first way is to match them using a comma and a coordinating conjunction. So you can have a sentence like this. Sandra washed the plates, comma, and Jane washed the car. Instead of having two simple sentences, you now have one sentence, now a compound sentence. So you have merged two simple sentences into a compound sentence by using a comma and a conjunction. There are other words that can function as conjunctions. Sandra washed the plates while Jane washed the car. Okay, say Sandra washed the plates, but Jane washed the car. Now, this is one way of merging simple sentences to form a compound sentence. The second way to do this is to use a semicolon. Sandra washed the plates. Jane washed the car. You have merged these two simple sentences into one compound sentence by using a semicolon. Now, but this is the interesting part of it. Now, if you look at this, this is where I'm actually interested. If you look at this, you will see that they have the same verbs. Sandra washed, Jane washed. Now you can omit this one and write Sandra washed the plates. Jane, comma, the car. Sandra washed the plates. Jane, comma, the car. You have omitted the second washed. This is perfectly acceptable. As a matter of fact, it demonstrates high level of competence in your understanding and use of English and punctuation marks. What has happened here is that this word here that was supposed to be here, that has been omitted, has been recovered in this. So we talk about recoverability. It's been recovered here because they are co-referential. They are the same. Take note. To do this, they must be co-referential. They are the same. Sandra washed the plates, Jane the car. So this is a clause without a verb because it's been recovered here. And as a matter of fact, all of these simple sentences have lost their status of simple sentences in this place. They have become clauses. This no longer, this is a simple sentence. This is a simple sentence. Here, this is just one sentence. This is now a clause. So this is what we call rank shifting. The sentence has shifted its rank from a sentence down to a clause. So when you write like this, you vary your sentence patterns like this. It gives you a level of competence. You know what you're doing, you know why you are doing it, and you know how to do it. But let me warn that, remember I said the second use of the comma is that it is used to show omission of words in sentences. A word has been omitted here. Now let me warn that for you to do this, the word here that you're omitting must be co-referential with this. Let's explain it. Sandra, let's assume you have this. Sandra washed the plates. Jane swept the house. Now, if you say you want to omit this, you have a semantic problem, a problem of meaning. Sandra washed the plates. Jane, and you do this, the house. What you're actually saying here is that Sandra washed the plates, Jane washed the house. Is that correct? Is that meaningful? Is that the intention? So for you to omit this word here, they must be co-referential. They must be the same word. This must have been recovered in this. In the next video, I'm going to look at other uses of the comma, and I'm going to take the opportunity to address an important issue, an important question that students have been asking almost every year. In fact, just last month here, January, students asked me, "Sir, is it correct to begin a sentence with because?" The next video, I'm going to address this issue. I want to thank you for your time. I want to also urge you to subscribe to my channel and click on the notification bell so that when I post new videos, you'll get an alert. Please share this video. It might help some students out there. Thank you.